said in the last video that there are a lot of names in this chapter, not just the people that are actually featured in the chapter, but people referred to in the jokes, the anecdotes, stories, and other newspaper articles that we're going to learn about. All these names, you may not even know what's important, so I'm going to try and help you sift through that now. This episode's location, we'll look at a better map later, but in general you just want to know that this takes place at the newspaper offices of the Freeman's Journal and the Evening Telegraph, which are, the morning and the evening edition of the same news vehicle, more or less. It seems like their offices and a lot of the people working are working for both. So it's just like different names, but it's the same company. The Freeman's Journal had been running since 1763, so it's a very old newspaper. The Evening Telegraph is a little more recent. Bloom's function in this episode, the reason he is there, is to deal with the editors and work out a deal for a contract of advertising with this other guy, Keyes, who's a merchant of some sort selling grocery goods and so on. He's going to put an advertisement in the paper. Stephen is there to deliver Mr. Deasy's letter about the foot and mouth disease going on. It's something that Stephen is less than enthusiastic about doing, but he said he would do it, so he does. In the process, though, he wrote a little poem that when he was at the beach in Proteus. Stephen's father will be in the offices as well, but he will not encounter Stephen, and he's mainly there just to meet these other guys and go drinking at the bar. Professor MacHugh is just this guy lingering in the office. I'm not clear if he does any writing or if he's just there as a friend. He's the one that mainly Stephen tells his parable to. You'll see the name Ned Lambert. This guy is a friend of Simon Dedalus, so he's just accompanying them. Apparently he owns some kind of a grain storage facility. There's this guy Nannetti who's involved with the printing and the business management at the paper. Bloom speaks to him, and there's something about Nannetti that's kind of interesting. He has this Italian name, and people know he's Italian, and he has that similar relationship to identity that Bloom has. But for some reason, Nannetti has been accepted, whereas Bloom is still an outsider in a way that Bloom is intrigued by and a bit puzzled by. There's a guy in the offices named J.J. O'Malloy who is down on his luck. Everybody thought he was going to be a promising lawyer, but he did not cut it with the law trade, and he is very low in money. I think he's there for a loan or something from one of the guys. Joe Hynes is there. He was at the funeral, you remember, in Hades, finding out people who were there so he could write it up in the paper, and he asked Bloom his Christian name, so he's in the offices now delivering that. Lenehan is there. You may remember his name from Dubliners. He's in the offices. He's a very witty guy, and he's going to tell a riddle. Myles Crawford, I mentioned before, he is drunk. He is the editor, I think, of the Evening Telegraph, if I remember. And they're going to be leading him away to the bar, and Bloom is trying to secure that deal with Keyes, the contract for the advertising, but Crawford just wants to go to the bar, and he's kind of sick of Bloom, so he will be kind of angry at Bloom like Aeolus when he came back to the island of Aeolia. There's this guy, Red Murray. This is, in real life, James Joyce's uncle. I guess he worked at the offices in some capacity. There's a guy named Monks who everybody refers to as the dayfather. I think he's kind of like the manager of the more printing side of the business. So there's the editors that are working with the writers, but then there's the guys that are doing all the proofreading and running the machines to print hundreds and thousands of newspapers really quickly. The name Alexander Keyes, I said before, he is the merchant who is working with Bloom to have this deal with a newspaper for a contract. The name O'Madden Burke will show up. That name may ring a bell. It's from Dubliners 2, the story A Mother. He's a journalist. At this point, we're definitely getting into the more minor characters or the minor mentions that aren't really even worth. Don't worry too much at this point. If you've got all the other names more or less down, then you'll be fine. So the name Ruttledge refers to a business manager or some kind of cashier handling money at the offices. Davy Stephens refers to a real person also in Dublin who had a news vending stand where he sold newspapers and magazines and such. The editor of the daily newspaper, the Freeman's Journal, is William Brayden. Another name that shows up from Dubliners is Hoppy Holohan, who organized concerts in the story A Mother. The name Dan Dawson refers to this guy who gave this really pompous, bloated, over melodramatic and horrible speech that they're going to be quoting. So his name is Dan Dawson. They call him Doughy Daw. In the Proteus episode, Stephen noticed this woman at the beach named Florence MacCabe. She delivers babies, and in his story, his parable, she's going to be one of the characters. Reference is made to some dude named Mario the Tenor. This was a singer, obviously. Before Stephen and Bloom's time, really, he stopped performing around 1871, but so legendary was his voice that it has lingered on in the narrative. Paddy Hooper was a journalist who later became one of the editors. Jack Hall, just another journalist name. Tim Healy, the reference is to this politician who is an Irish nationalist. He initially supported Parnell, but later he betrayed him. And finally, the last name I'll cover is John F. Taylor. This was also a real person who was a lawyer and a journalist a little. And he gave some amazing speech. I think Joyce was present. I could be wrong on that, but I want to say Joyce was present at the actual speech. So we don't have an exact transcript of the speech, but everybody that was there and the general ideas of the speech are remembered, and that is what Joyce is going to be quoting more or less, and it's about Irish independence.